Hey, so I wanted to share my smoking story, just how I started smoking cigarettes and then how I quit, most importantly. I'm about to start a new job soon, part-time house cleaning job, which I'm excited about. So I wanted to kind of take some time to talk about something that I am proud of and consider an accomplishment and trying to get into this positive mindset. I quit or sorry, I started smoking um when I was about 20. I'm 32 now. I started smoking at about 20, and then I quit smoking when I was about 29. I don't actually know exactly when I quit smoking because there was so much going on in my life at the time that I just can't put an exact like date on it. But I know that I did it, and and I know the approximate time. It was, you know, probably like spring, 2022 or 2023, maybe. I don't know for sure, but anyway, I was smoking for about a decade, and I did have a period of maybe like 6 months to a year of quitting smoking in that period. But for the most part, I was like a pack to 2 pack a day smoker. I would chain smoke. I would stub out a cigarette and then just put it in my pocket and be carrying burnt cigarette butts smelling disgusting. And at the time, like, I felt some embarrassment about it, but it mattered to me more to save my money and have that tobacco still. So, um, when when I started smoking, I was using an inhaler, like what is it called? Albuterol, an albuterol inhaler, regularly, anyways, because I just kind of grown up using one, and I would say I was a little bit taking it unnecessarily, a little bit too dependent. Um, and so I had asthma, and when I first started smoking, like, I had to really want it. Like, I started smoking because I was living and working on a farm where everybody was smoking, and I just simply was like, I think this is an essential part of me stepping into a good life. Like, I know it's crazy that that is what my thought process was, but it was very much like looking at the kind of people that I admired, when I was young. They're just like rock stars, the rebels, the people who do things differently. And that was just my frame of reference at the time. And I didn't have the frame of reference to show that, like, caring about what is authentic for you, that can come in forms that doesn't destroy your health and doesn't have all these negative side effects. Um, but so when I first started smoking, I had horrible asthma attacks from it. Like, I would stay up at night and having to breathe in steam because I couldn't breathe well, like, it was just constant asthma attack. And I remember somebody I was living with asking me to do his breathalyzer thing on his car. He had like the breathalyzer thing attached to his car because he'd gotten a DUI, and he was asking me to do it for him, and I was trying to do it, but it didn't even register that I had oxygen, that I was breathing, because I was having such a hard time breathing. So that's just to say that I had to really want it to become a smoker. I had to be like, this is my goal. Like, I have this vision of who I'm trying to become and what steps I need to take to try to get the life that I want. Like, a life on my own terms, a life with people who accept me for me, a life that is like fun, mischievous, rebellious. And I achieved my goal. I just kept on stubbornly smoking, and then it got to the point that I did some research online. I was like, oh, tobacco supposedly has, what are they called, like vasodilators in it, something that is supposedly good to open your airways. So I started being like, oh, I guess now it's opening my airways and I'm kind of dependent on it to be able to breathe well. And whatever happened, I what I just, after that, I became a smoker, very, very regular smoker. Cigarettes were my babies, like jobs that I would have, like there's this job at an animal hospital that I had in my early 20s for about a year. And it was kind of like something that I used to bond with the other people who worked there, with my coworkers. And it just felt like cigarettes were such a big part of my identity, like the way that I bonded with people. Like I could always ask people for a cigarette or offer people a cigarette, or we would go, like I remember like when I would just like do like random, I don't know, like gardening workshops, like me and the smokers would like find each other and just like go off, start smoking. Other smokers come over, and then you joke about how like you're part of the bad kids club and you feel like a sense of bonding. And I just felt like it was something that could let me connect with like anybody, and I love that part of it. So when I started to see issues with smoking, it actually, I think crazily, it improved my asthma. I haven't taken an inhaler for years, and the only time I felt like I needed to was in the past few months when I was house sitting with dogs that I was allergic to, and it messed up with my asthma. It kind of brought that back, but other than that, like I hadn't had breathing problems in years. So in some kind of weird way, I think smoking did strengthen my lungs somehow. It like desensitized me or something. But the problems that I started to see that first made me be like, I want to quit smoking was, um, for one, the kind of sense of social embarrassment of like smelling bad and being like, oh God, like everything else about me in my life. Like at the time, like I was homeless, I was very physically unhealthy, like not eating enough at all, not having clothes. Just like you could tell, I just kind of looked like a burnt out, a lot of people would think an addict. Um like I was addicted to like weed, but not, and kind of alcohol, but not like other things, but I just looked, I started to feel self-conscious, like, oh, like people are going to like judge me and make a lot of negative assumptions about me because of my appearance, assumptions that I don't want them to make of me, and assumptions that aren't in line with my values. Um, and because of that, that was the first kind of thing that I was like, oh, smoking. I associated it with like being that type of like irresponsible, antisocial personality structure. That's how I started to see it. Um, and then there's a lot more that could be said about that. Whether that's like a compassionate, useful way to see it, but that's how I thought of it at the time. And this is 4 or 5 years ago or so. So after that, the next thing that started to kind of be tough for me was feeling like physically sick. This is, I had started to develop panic disorder when I was getting out of homelessness, and um, and my anxiety use started to just get really bad whenever I'd use tobacco. Lightheaded and just like mind racing and just feeling sick and feeling afraid, um, and just being like super intense unlike it was in the past. And so I started having that difficulty. And then another difficulty was the money. I started realizing, like, okay, I have to actually be thinking about the future now and not just taking things like day by day, minute by minute. I'm in a lot of like physical pain. When I stopped smoking weed, I started being able to feel physical pain that I wasn't aware of, that had been there underneath. I hadn't been able to perceive it. And I started to kind of think more seriously, like, okay, having a lot of physical, emotional pain. What is my future going to be? That's kind of when my anxiety took on a different form, the sense of panic disorder, and just being like, overcompensating for not having control of my life in the past. overcompensating with trying to control everything and being so freaked out about the future, which I still kind of struggle with. um, but so at that point, I had concerns about money and being like, okay, cigarettes are going into money. I want a different future, and I know I have to become a different person. I became somebody who smoked cigarettes in order to fit in with my identity and the narrative I had in my mind for what kind of life I wanted and how I thought I could create and somehow find myself in the right, like authentic, fulfilling life, you know? Um, I I had that feeling again, like, okay, I want to be everything that I felt like I wasn't before. I want to be responsible. I want to be in control. I want to be organized. I want to be a part of society, not feeling like I'm an outcast of society. All these things. So uh, this had been mulling over in my head for a couple years. And then I quit smoking for like 6 months or so, but I didn't really, you know, I you could argue it from a lot of positions. Like I didn't care enough, or you could say like the circumstances of my life simply weren't stabilized enough to allow me to have this, life change. I think that is the more accurate thing to go with. That my life just wasn't stable enough, and so I wasn't able to maintain um, the quitting smoking that first time. But then the second time came around, and the important part is I got help. I found a quit smoking study that I could be part of that was offered at a local university. This was in Rhode Island. Um, I was a part of that quit smoking study, smoking cessation, not smoking sensation, but smoking cessation. And they would give us what is it? Was it the Nicorette brand or I don't remember what the brand is, but they would give us the patches, the lozenges, which is kind of like a mint that dissolves in your mouth, and then the gum that was filled with nicotine. And um, I think those things helped me immensely, more so than I had thought, because they were really strong. So it kind of like started to repel me from nicotine a bit, from the effects, because it's like for me, I was already struggling a lot with anxiety, starting to not even be able to have caffeine anymore. I still don't have caffeine to this day, like a few years later. But the uh, nicotine started to like just make me feel kind of sick, make me feel like anxious, like, and I think that might be a part of the intention, maybe, with these nicotine um substitutes, maybe to help kind of make your body associate it more with like discomfort and ew, that doesn't feel good. And that's how it worked for me, at least. So I would do things like have just a tiny little bite of a lozenge, or but then I eventually kind of built that tolerance to it, of course. But at that point, by the time I built the tolerance to the nicotine patches, I had stopped the habit of smoking, the ritual of smoking, the sense of identity built around the act of smoking. The packing the cigarettes and unwrapping everything, and the feel and the taste of everything when it is like fresh out of the box, and the lighters, and um, just like going different places to smoke. And my job, it made it a lot easier. I was delivering Amazon packages at the time. It made it a lot easier not to smoke in my job, because it was just like a hassle that took extra time. Like I'd be smoking while driving, and then I'd always be anxious, like, God, I'm giving people packages that smell like smoke. And it would be just, something else. It was like just another, it kind of felt like an annoyance, like, ugh, I don't want to have to do this thing. So do this action of smoking. So yeah, that helped to take me off action of smoking. And then I had even more of this sense of like, I think sometimes you have to go overboard um and kind of overcorrect sometimes in order to establish yourself in a different like identity belief system, and then eventually it smooths out. But at the time I was like like anything that reminds me of when I was homeless, or the failure and all the shame associated with it, which is not right, by the way, like the judgment of everybody, and just this sense of like being terrified for my future and not in control of my life, not in control to protect myself from people who wanted to harm me and wanted to take advantage of my vulnerabilities. Um, all these kind of thoughts and feelings coalesce and all centered around like it just boiled down to like I don't want anything a part of this that had been my life, and smoking is very much attached to that identity. So smoking repels me because I want to change who I am, the character that I play in the world. I want to change my opportunities. I want to change the way people see me. I want to change my physical health, because at the time, like, I would climb up a flight of stairs and be panting. I was like, I want to change my health because that'll open up the doors for me to be able to accomplish all these goals that I'm so anxious about. The goals of being able to have some kind of stable job in the future that is compatible for me, of being able to um, enjoy my life and have good health, and have more hope for what kind of life I can have, what kind of life somebody like me is allowed to, or like is accessible. And I wanted to be like I think it's impossible for me to become a different person, but I want to like challenge that. Like something in me thinks that I can and I want to. And so all those kind of mindsets, it really helped me. And then I don't remember like a specific day or whatever. I remember my coworker asking me a few months after I quit smoking, asking me if she could borrow a lighter, and I was just like, I quit smoking. And I had been known for like being the smokeaholic. So uh, that was really stuck in my mind of being like, wow, like I actually did this. And it's something that a change that people can see on the outside. So, um, and at that job, I actually ended up getting a award. They like handed out just like team awards to everybody, and I think my award was something like, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like the most change, or like the person who has grown the most. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something along the lines of that. And I think it was in great part because I had quit smoking, and then just kind of changed um, my external obvious self-care habits in a way that showed I prioritized smelling good. No more cigarettes, wearing perfume. I prioritized smelling good, and just kind of the simple external things of being just more showing like I'm a part of society, things that signify like I want to be a part of society. And I consider myself to be a part of society, and I have a job to do in society, and I respect society's customs of self-care and personal appearance and things like that, hygiene, all of that. So after that time, I just never have wanted to smoke again. Like I just have a very like in my identity, like that is just absolutely tied to everything from that part of my life of being homeless. And I freak out. Like my anxiety is worse in a lot of ways, but for the better. Like it helps me in the sense that I think a lot about health. I worry a lot about health. I worry a lot about my future. I worry about erasing the damage that smoking and other things has already done. And I just care about feeling good, and like feeling good, like not anxious from cigarettes or whatever. And the money, saving the money, and just in general, like smoking just seemed like it I don't have that physiological or cultural like attachment to it anymore, and I'm grateful for that. And um I I had tried when I was younger, to read books like there's this famous one about quitting smoking that I don't remember what it's called, but I had read that when I was maybe like 24, 25. can't remember the name, but I remember I did like that book, but I didn't really take it seriously at the time. Like, I wasn't ready to quit smoking. I didn't have that stability in my life. I think it's really important to do things for yourself, not from pressure on other people, like direct pressures, but more like I'm doing this for myself because I see what quality of life I have. I see the rules of the world. I see um, something bigger to live for, or something that I value more than I do smoking. And, it, I think sometimes you have to put yourself in more stressful situations, have more responsibilities, more obligations, so that it'll push you over to that point where you are like, I gotta get out of this situation, all the obligations that are helping you with your goals, to be like, I want to have things better for myself in the future. And in order to have things better for myself, to not like have a job at Amazon or whatever it is, I have to put myself in, I have to change myself to be accessible to different types of jobs, or different types of lifestyle, or different parts of society, or different ways of seeing myself, a different relationship that I have with myself. So, yeah, that has been my experience with smoking and quitting smoking. I haven't smoked now for about 3 years or so. Not exactly sure of how long it's been. Um, but yeah, thank you for listening. I hope this is helpful to you in some kind of way. And if you are um, wanting to quit smoking, it is available to you. You might just have to have compassion for yourself and do some tweaks first. Not have like all or nothing thinking. Just be like, not make it this big moralistic thing. Just be like, um, what I want to smoke now. I mean, I can do other things. It's not a huge deal if I smoke, but I can also do something else if I think that would feel good. Just go for what you think feels good, the pleasure, including the narrative you have of yourself being a part of what gives you pleasure, and just being like, what are the other things I can substitute with it, and just trust that in time things will come together. Don't like be afraid to try a smoking cessation study where you can get nicotine replacements, because that was a huge help for me. And or however else you can get them. I don't know if you can get them for free with like certain healthcare, or I don't know about any of that. um but yeah, and just, you know re- remember maybe that you have to have compassion for yourself and change your life circumstances first to lower your stress, so that quitting smoking can then happen, because it's serving a function in your life. It's a part of your coping skills, a part of your stability, a part of your sense of like identity and security and ritual. So you might have to just change your life circumstances and rituals first in order to set the stage for phasing out smoking in a way that feels right to you. I also, just adding this in real quick, I forgot to say, when I think back to things more, I think that you might have some unexpected coping mechanisms that are like kind of necessary evils, or is like the lesser evil of two options, when you are quitting smoking. Like for me, I developed binge eating disorder for a while. For other people, it could be a number of things, but just have compassion for yourself and know that you kind of have to focus on, you have to really feel in yourself that quitting smoking is the priority. And if there are other things that come up, you have to have faith that it'll smooth itself out as you continue to stabilize, and also as you stabilize from quitting smoking, but as you also continue to stabilize other parts of your life, and other things like your partnership with yourself, the way that you think, to construct narratives that allows you to increase your chances of feeling safe, and not take on unnecessary stresses, or being able to change your environment in order to manage stresses, or find things that you love that you didn't know before you loved, or just things that are numbing, like other addictions that are numbing, but it's like um I can't think of the word right now. Damage control. What's it called? It's when you it's something that's not the best that's happening, but you're like managing and minimizing. Harm reduction, harm reductive kind of addictions. Another thing that was an addiction for me when I was stabilizing from quitting smoking was YouTube videos. Like, I would just have people constantly talking, just podcasts, like clips from movies, TV shows, cartoons, like meditations, people just talking about their lives, everything. Like, I had something on YouTube, music, whatever, playing in my head 24/7, literally for like, I don't know, maybe like 8-9 months or something like that. Hard to put an exact point on it, but I had something constantly, even when I was asleep. Because there definitely were psychological side effects, that total recalibration of how your body um, just like filters and processes information, including sensory information like physical pain and emotional pain. You're becoming a different human being, who a different biological organism that just processes stimuli differently when you're quitting smoking. So just wanted to add that in real quick before I forgot that part of my experience also. Okay, resume. So yeah. Um anyway, take care. Bye.